Hey everybody, Don Kramer with the Kramer Group at Urban Nest Realty coming to you on a special edition of Coffee with Kramer. And today is a fun event, and this is sent out to those that are coming into our humble old burg, as a good friend of mine likes to say, Las Vegas, Nevada, for a convention, for a weekend, whatever it may be. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, the extraordinary food maestro himself, John Curtas.
Yeah. The grumpy gourmand himself.
The grumpy gourmand, also known when we're both together as the Burly Boys.
The Burly Boys, that's it. That's the Don and John show right there.
Exactly. And so with John, he has a website. If you haven't checked it out, go to eatinglv.com. On Twitter, he is at Eating Las Vegas. And then, John, I believe you're on Instagram at John Curtas. It's time for the shameless plug now.
Oh, shameless plug. Well, you want to know where to eat, folks? Buy my book, Shameless Plug Alert, Eating Las Vegas. It's 2 years out of date now, but it's not out of date, especially on the Strip, because very little has changed on the Strip in the last 2 years. So it's got a Chinatown section that's also good. It's my 52 essential restaurants, but there's also a section on steakhouses, Chinatown, you name it, Italian restaurants. You've got it. We've got them all in here. So go on Amazon, Amazon.com, Eating Las Vegas. You'll see it and buy a copy. But I'm glad to share with you some of my insights and my insatiable hungers with your crowd today, and give you a few tips out of the book.
That's awesome. Well, John, thanks. I know you've got a short schedule today, because you're off to where I would normally be.
You're not going to be at lunch today, Don. This is a tragedy. Well, okay, you're my favorite drinking partner, and I won't have him today with me.
Exactly. I share a toast to you. Please give our best to the ensemble that meets for what we call the Proper Lunch Club.
Proper Lunch Club every Friday that we do it, but we'll miss you. We'll raise a glass or three to your honor, Don. I promise.
Thank you. Meanwhile, I'm bringing a listing live. That's what I do.
Okay.
So, John, today we want to talk about people coming into town, especially for conferences. I've got a conference coming up next week with a bunch of realtors in Las Vegas, and I want to talk about some restaurants that people would be interested in, and kind of give them maybe the short form over the next 10 to 15 minutes on different types of cuisines, or maybe a different type of locale based on what they're looking for.
Okay.
Do you mind sharing your words of wisdom?
I will bestow. The Oracle will now speak and bestow 30 years of covering the Las Vegas restaurant scene on your loyal listeners.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. So we're going to go small to big. So let's take like this particular conference, for example. It's at the Mandalay Bay, the big convention center there, and a lot of people are staying in and around there as grounds as the main property. In the Mandalay itself, you're there. You got to grab a bite to eat. Where are you going?
Okay, so you're at the Mandalay Bay. Mandalay Bay has had an up and down. Let me just a little history. Up and down. When it came online, I think in 2001, 2002. It was. They had a murderer's row of restaurants in it, and it's still very solid. Okay, still has the Border Grill there. Lunch and dinner at the Border Grill. The two hot tamales from Los Angeles run it. And if you just want really, really good, authentic Mexican food in a corner, and it's actually near the convention center, that'd be my first choice to drop in for a bite. Plus, it's got a cool bar, great margaritas, nice tequila selection, and so Border Grill would be my number one venue for conventioneers for a lot of reasons: the fantastic food and the location. And who doesn't love Mexican food? So that's number one. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep it. You still have the honor, Your Honor.
Okay. Next up, I would say strip steak for a splurge. How's that for alliteration? Strip steak for a splurge is also on the way to and from the convention center. It's a Michael Mina steakhouse. very solid, big. It's got to seat like 300 people. I've always hated the decor, but love the food at Strip Steak. Great steak selection. They do all the cuts. I'm sure they have all the Japanese beef that's everywhere these days. But they treat it right. Wonderful sides, great potatoes, interesting wine list, big bar. So for a splurge, Strip Steak is definitely where I would go next. You want to go a little more casual than Strip Steak, Libertine Social, which is also Bay. Tony Abou-Ghanem, who's one of the great mixology mavens of not just of Las Vegas, in the United States. He's the man behind Libertine Social, and it might be one of, if not the best bars, especially on the Strip, in terms of you're into exotic booze, elaborate cocktails, Negronis like you've never had before, but all the hits. If you like Manhattans and martinis, that's great. But if you want to get real exotic with these cocktails with 14 ingredients that take 18 minutes to make, they do those there too. And it's a solid restaurant, very casual vibe, kind of pub food, elevated, I'd call it. So Libertine Social. So those would probably be my top 3 picks in Mandalay Bay.
Fantastic. And let's start going beyond Mandalay Bay. Let's say we wanted to still stay on the Strip, and maybe take an Uber over. Any place that you're like, okay, hey, we want to have a power dinner, for 4 to 8 people.
And so, being it's real estate agents, price is no object, right, Don Kramer?
Well,
right?
With this crowd, they're pretty close to that point.
Okay, so if
players.
You're really throwing down and have money to burn. Well, guys, that's the thing about Vegas. I mean, we have so many options. I mean, if you want to go fancy French, although they're impossible to get into these days, you have Guy Savoy in Caesar's Palace. You have Joel Robuchon in Caesar's Palace. You have L'Atelier to Joel Robuchon, not Caesar's, MGM. Robuchon is an MGM. And that's just fancy French. If you want to go high-end Italian, you've got Carbone. The Aria has fantastic restaurant selection. Carbone, again, some of these places are hard to get into, so you better, if you're thinking about trying to book them right away. Aria also has John George's Steakhouse, which is one of our upper-tier steakhouses, and it's got 3 restaurants right in the little cul-de-sac of the Aria Hotel, and also has Bardo Brasserie, which is one of the best French restaurants in town. So you can't go wrong with just strolling around the Aria if you want to. They also have Din Tai Fung there, which is just really, it's an outpost of these great Chinese dumplings that are also in the Aria. So it's really hard to have a bad meal in the Aria Hotel. And that's just one hotel. I mean, you can go all over the place. The Cosmo has Jose Andres Jaleo, which is wonderful, open for lunch and dinner. Zuma, which is high-end, I call it big box sushi restaurant, which is fantastic. Then you go farther down the Strip and go to the Bellagio, which is always solid with prime steakhouse, Le Cirque, Picasso, Michael Mina. I mean, these are Michael Mina, where I believe a certain guy on this podcast had his bachelor party so long ago, is still a great restaurant. It's seafood focused, but Michael Mina in the Bellagio is still almost foolproof as a great restaurant.
And I'm going to interject and say, somebody had a hand in that menu.
Yes, I had a little hand in putting that together, but that was quite an epic dinner, as I recall.
Yes. So if we're to move up a little bit, let's say, okay, this is the restaurant where you want to have a good meal, but you want to have a conversation because you might be putting a dinner deal together or something of that nature. Where's the restaurant to get business done?
Oh, now you're making me think, Don Kramer. Good gosh. Okay. I like this backlighting I've got. It makes me look a lot younger, by the way. I do that intentionally on these podcasts. It shaves at least 15 years off me. A business. That's the trouble with some restaurants. Is that in Las Vegas is that they're very noisy. Okay, and some of my favorite places. I mean, I love the restaurants at Resorts World. And Carver Steak is one of the great steakhouses. Brezza, which is one of the top Italian restaurants. Wally's is there, which has got one of the great wine lists in Las Vegas at some great prices. But you can't hear yourself eat in some of these. So you're talking about kind of a big deal meal with a civilized noise level, Bazaar Meat in the Sahara Hotel, Jose Andres's Bazaar Meat, which is both a Spanish restaurant and a steakhouse, and it's big, and you have to book ahead, but you usually can find seats in it. But it might be my favorite big deal meal with a civilized noise level. It's a large restaurant, but it skews towards you can go seafood, you can go Spanish, or you can go steaks there. So I love Bazaar Meat in the Sahara.
And we'd like to give a big shout out to our big friends of where we're going for lunch today. What do you think of that little location for?
Oh, Cipriani, of course. Hey, I'm sorry about the glare behind me, but folks, believe me, I look better in shadow than I do in bright light. So let's.
You have a little more angelic look going.
I know. It's really God speaks through me. Okay, that's when it comes to Las Vegas restaurants. So I'll go with that. Cipriani, of course, is to me the nicest lunch and dinner Italian restaurant in Las Vegas. Just fabulous. I mean, sophisticated Northern Italian food, great pizzas, as Don Kramer can tell you. Not a lot of garlic. Very simple pastas, very simple meat and fish, but it's always done excellent. So it's part of a chain of Cipriani's around the world. I think they have a dozen of them or so now. But I'm there every Friday for a reason, and it's great. Before I forget, don't sleep on the restaurants at the Venetian Palazzo. They have like 40 restaurants in that double hotel situation there. They have cut one of the great steakhouses. Matteo's, one of a wonderful Italian restaurant. Milos for Greek fish, but bring your pocketbook. Milos would be a great place for a business meeting also. And then Delmonico, which is an old favorite of Don and mine for how many years, Don? Which is both civilized, quiet, big, but wonderful steaks, Emerald Lagasse, Cajun Creole food, and a great wine list.
First-rate wine list. I mean, I believe they're a multi-year Grand Award winner.
Yeah, so Venetian Palazzo, you cannot go wrong with Venetian Palazzo. I mean, Mott 32 might be the best Chinese restaurant. It's a big box, a huge restaurant, but it might be the best Chinese restaurant in all of Las Vegas.
And a great decor.
And great decor. Very, very. It's impossible not to love it. Yes.
Absolutely. So now let's do quick. I know your time's important and the clock is ticking. Let's move a little bit north to maybe kind of downtown Fremont Street. We have some agents that are doing an event coming up at downtown Cocktail Room. So we're trying to get off strip a little bit, or also let's maybe get off strip completely or get off of downtown. And what would be your picks there?
Well, downtown is hot right now, so it's like the, especially on weekends. I mean, it's crawling with hipsters and people far younger than myself. But I live near downtown, so I'm there quite a bit. I mean, Main Street Provisions is a great restaurant with a wonderful bar. Esther's Kitchen was the first restaurant to make a big splash in the Arts District. But it's not a very big restaurant. They're expanding this year, but it's one of those places we always joke. It's so busy no one goes there anymore. Okay, so crowded. The old Yogi Berra line, right? Because Esther's Kitchen is great, but there's also a great cocktail scene downtown. Downtown Cocktail Bar you just mentioned. Jammyland is a wonderful cocktail bar, and there's a bar tucked in a corner in a very little out-of-the-way place, a little bit away from the Arts District, called the Silver Stamp, which is a beer aficionado's mecca. The Silver Stamp for beer aficionados. So downtown has it all at substantially less prices than the Strip. So it's one of the great places to go to. And then if you're really into food and want to explore Vegas, besides downtown, the place to go is Chinatown. And as again, shameless plug, in my book I have a whole Chinatown section, which mentions, I think, over 100 restaurants in China. And there's some new ones that are there, but the old ones that have been there for a while: China Mama, Chengdu Taste, Yui My Sushi, Kabuto Sushi. There's at least 24 Vietnamese pho parlors in Chinatown. Izakaya Go. I mean, you can go nuts in Chinatown. Raku is the granddaddy of them all, which is a Japanese izakaya. Very elevated food, but very hard to get into. But there's some lesser places that you can't go wrong just kind of pulling into one of the shopping centers for the most part. You might get there might be a bad one here or there, but Chinatown delivers the best bang for the buck in Las Vegas.
And John, interestingly enough, there are some really restaurants you wouldn't expect in Chinatown. What about Partage?
Yeah, Partage and Sparrow and Wolf.
Yeah.
They're the two gringo guys. Well, one is American, and the other is run by a bunch of young French guys that are great. Partage is French. Sparrow plus Wolf is Brian Howard's the chef. I would call it very elevated gastropub food in Sparrow and Wolf. Partage is very intricate French food, but in a very casual setting. But it's a wonderful place. I mean, Partage has just taken off over the last few years. All of them survived COVID, so major props for that. And so Chinatown is not just Asian restaurants anymore. It's very much being discovered on many levels, but still the best Asian food. Maybe in the West, in such a concentrated, in a 3-mile area, there's got to be at least 100 great places to eat in a short 3-mile strip.
That's awesome. Yeah, our Chinatown's very, very eclectic, very good. So now we're getting to maybe one or two. Let's say we had to go out to Henderson, or that place that you try to avoid once in a while, Summerlin.
Henderson. I guess you have to sell real estate all over the Valley, don't you, Don?
We do. We represent.
Okay, you can't be a snob like me, an insufferable snob, gas-bagging snob like yours truly. Henderson's got is finally getting some good restaurants. There, of course, you got Rosa Ristorante, very nice Italian. 138 Degrees, which is a steakhouse way out in Henderson, which I really love. They have Cafe Duval, which is a little French bistro, breakfast lunch bistro. So Henderson's finally getting some good food, and I'm happy because a lot of nice people live out there. But it's been chain restaurant city for like 20 years. But people are finally breaking that hegemony and bringing good local chefs with great young chefs, local young chefs there. So you can find something to eat in Henderson that's not part of a chain with 8,000 other restaurants around the world.
And then finally, the other little burg that you like to avoid once in a while, Summerlin.
Oh, don't talk about Summerlin. Okay, I'm gonna have to.
Or just outside of Summerlin. Well,
Summerlin is Paris, France. Next to Henderson. So let's just go there. Yeah. Marche Bacchus in Summerlin, of course, and you go out far west Sahara to the Red Rock Casino, which is really developing a solid food and restaurant program. They now have Lotus of Siam, our most famous. They have a branch of Lotus of Siam in the hotel, the Red Rock Hotel Casino, and they also just opened a Greek seafood place and a wine bar there. So then they have a Blue Ribbon Sushi in the Red Rock Hotel. So if you want to play it safe and have a lot of options, go to the Red Rock Hotel and Casino. Outside of that, I'm a big Marche Bacchus fan for the most romantic wine restaurant in Las Vegas.
And I'm going to throw...
anybody more, just bon appetit to everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to throw you one more. And that was a big one last year. Anima.
Which one?
Anima by EDO.
Anima by EDO. Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, man, we're trying to cover the whole valley here, aren't we?
We're wedging it all in.
Yeah. I mean, Chinatown. Well, we could spend an hour just talking about Chinese restaurants and Asian restaurants. Chinatown. Anima by Edo is won the restaurant of the year this year in the southwest part of town. and it's fantastic. Look, it's a ANIMA, which means I think life, in Spanish. Anima by Ito. Oscar Emmer Ito is the chef. It's maybe it's our most dynamic, most interesting local restaurant, and it's won all the awards last year. If you get a chance, check it out. Anima by Ito.
Actually, I've got a reservation there, and as John mentioned to everyone, book your reservations now because this next weekend, even after our conference, we have the Pro Bowl in town, so there's going to be a lot of people coming into Las
Vegas is not the Vegas of 5 years ago where you could just stroll into restaurants now. I mean, between the internet, millennials and Gen Xers getting more and more food oriented, the food revolution coming this far in the last 20 years. Getting into good restaurants is very tough. One last shout out, and then I got to go, Don. Sahara Hotel has Bizarre Meat and also Bala by Sean McLean.
Good call out there.
Sahara Hotel, check that out as well. And I'm going to have to say toodles to everybody here because I'm hungry.
There you go. Well, you can catch him on eatinglv.com, at John Curtas on Instagram, and at Eating Las Vegas on Twitter. John, I appreciate you being on here. Appreciate you all. And please say hi to the peeps at the Proper Lunch Club today. I look forward to catching up with you here soon.
Yeah, yes, now, bon appetit to all. Cheers. See you all later. Bye-bye. Have fun in life. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, do you have a favorite restaurant you love to go to on Strip, off Strip, or near where you live? Or if you're coming to Las Vegas, where you like to stay and eat while you're in town? Do us a big favor on our YouTube video page. Put it in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Also, too, if you enjoy the content we have today and our other videos, do us a big favor. Hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to be up to date on our latest videos.